Hello, you sexy beast, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be talking about this whole situation with the mouse being removed, amongst some other tanks. And in the background we're going to be having some random mouse gameplay, both up tiers and down tiers. I've been playing this battle rating a lot since the YouTube Cup, since I got the E100, so it's going to be a pretty good representation. In case you've been living under a rock and have no idea what is going on, Gaijin announced that with the upcoming patch 1.91, the Panther 2 King Tiger 10.5cm, the Coelian, also known as Flakpanzer 341 I believe, and the mouse are going to get removed from the research, from the tech tree. People who currently own it will still be able to play them. They will not be removed from the accounts that do own it. As well as people who have at least one RP towards their research will still be able to research them after the patch comes out. But anyone who doesn't fill those criteria will not be able to get these vehicles anymore, except for any future events that haven't really been specified yet. And I have a bit of a fear that these are going to end up as marketplace vehicles, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Now, we knew about 3 of these for a long time. Gaijin did mention before that we're thinking about removing the Panther 2, the Tiger 105 and the Coelian, because they are really tanks that have never existed in the form that they currently do. The King Tiger 105 was just a project, it was never actually finished. The Coelian was not built in the way it was either. The turret was just a wooden mock-up placed on a Panther hull, and the Panther 2 was also not built in the way it is currently in the game. I think there was a hull which was cancelled in development later on, and the 88mm was never fitted to Schmaltum turret in the way it is in the game right now, so there you go. Those are vehicles that are actually not, that have never actually existed the way they do in the game. There are some issues I have. The Coelian is going to at least get replaced with the Ostwind 2, so really I don't have any issues with that. The King Tiger 105 is not getting replaced with anything, but frankly it doesn't really need it. Yes, it is now a better King Tiger because of the better engine and the better stock shell, but back in the day the stock shell was actually worse than the stock shell on the 88mm King Tiger, so it didn't really need it. There are plenty of other King Tigers to go around. It doesn't really need a replacement, so I'm kind of fine with that as well. The Panther 2 is a bit of an issue for me. The supposed replacement is going to be a new M48 at battle rating 7.7, despite us already having a battle rating 7.7 at 48, which apparently will get some kind of upgrade and will be bumped up to 8.3. But honestly, the M48 is arguably a worse tank than the Panther 2. There isn't really anything comparable to the Panther 2, except for the RU-251, which is a premium tank. Germany doesn't really have many fast vehicles at this battle rating. In fact, the Panther 2 is really the only option you have if you don't want to pay money for the RU-251, so removing the Panther 2 without a proper replacement at this battle rating is going to massively weaken the German teams in the future, once people who currently own it stop playing it and new people can't get it anymore. And finally, something that came out completely out of left field, something they have not talked about at all until the announcements. They are removing the mouse. Now, the mouse is not like the other vehicles we have mentioned. The mouse existed. 2 hulls were built, 2 turrets were built out of the second hull. I don't think the second turret was ever fitted by the Germans to the hulls, but the Russians eventually later on took the turret of one prototype, put it on the hull of the other prototype, and it sits currently at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, so it is a tank that exists, it was tested, and it frankly makes no sense why they are removing it. The mouse is a 7.7 battle rating heavy tank with a 128mm gun. And it's actually pretty balanced at its own BR. I mean, it is very slow, but it compensates for having very good armor, but it is easily killed by CAS and has a very prominent weak spots, both the flat sides of the hull and the turret front, which can easily be penetrated even by full down-tiered tanks, especially APDS. Keep in mind, the turret front is only 220mm thick at the thickest, so there is quite a few options that can disable the mouse. Especially since the mouse has to expose its biggest weak spot really to be able to aim at anything. Now, the reason that Gaijin gave for the removal of the mouse was that it was impossible to balance. You can't down-tier it any further than it currently is, because then it would start just dunking on lower tier tanks. And yes, I can kind of agree. A mouse versus a 6.3 tank would not be too fair, really. 220mm is about the threshold of where most 6.7 tanks start to be able to penetrate it, but not the 6.3 ones yet. But at the current battle rating it sits at, it gets absolutely destroyed in up tiers. Because of the current top tier battle rating of 10.0, you have these battle rating brackets that generally result in black holes. 10.0, since it can't get up tiered, will always get down to 9.0, so 9.0 tanks will generally get sucked up into 10.0 battles. Leaving 8.7 tanks that will not get sucked up as much, and instead get down tiered quite a bit to 7.7, sucking up all of the 7.7s. And in fact, out of the 10 matches I have played, I've recorded the battle ratings that I got into. And keep in mind, this is not a very good sample size, I am aware of that, but it is something that just confirms the bias, I would suppose, a little bit. Out of all the matches I've got double the amount of full up tiers than I've got full down tiers. You simply don't get many full down tiers in the 7.7 battle rating, and this is a real issue for the mouse, because at 8.7 it has to face fully stabilized 1970s MBTs, which can fire APF-SDS, HeatFS, and in some cases 80 gems, which is absolutely low-pen this thing from pretty much any angle. The timing of this announcement has been just absolutely terrible. The community has been asking about top tier battle rating compression for quite a while, and especially recently with this whole movement of fix the game in 1.91 and whatever. It's been getting pretty loud, let's say, the demands of the community. Instead, Gaijin does the complete opposite of what people wanted, and instead of fixing the actual cause of the issue of the top tier battle rating compression, it simply removes the victims of the problem? And this is why I've named this video the way it is. Instead of addressing the cause, they remove the symptoms. And this sets a really dangerous precedent. What will get removed next? Let's see at some other tank that share a similar position to the mouse, for example. The American M103. It's an iconic tank, it's the same battle rating as the mouse. It is a similar style of play with a slow reload, great armor, slow mobility, but it too gets absolutely destroyed in full up tiers. So, by the same logic, is the M103 going to get removed soon? Can you imagine the uproar of removing such an iconic tank? What about the IS-3 and the IS-4Ms? They are in pretty similar situations, really. They are long past their glory date. At some point, these used to be some of the strongest tanks in the game, but now they are rarely seen on the battlefield, having pretty slow handling and reloading guns, having great armor, but still getting low panned and dragged into up tiers. Are they going to get removed? What about the Conqueror? Also in a pretty similar situation, although at a 0.3 battle rating lower. As you can see, there are lots of tanks in similar situation to the mouse. The mouse is an iconic vehicle. It's prominently featured in the loading screen. It's something that many people grind through the tech tree to get to. Yet, apparently to Gaijin, it's worth it to simply remove the mouse from being researchable for new players instead of fixing the actual issue that is causing the issues for the mouse. Gaijin, the real problem here, and you know this, don't act like you don't know this. You know fully well that the issue is not that the mouse is not balanceable. It is balanceable. At its own bat rating, it's perfectly balanced. Even in full down tiers, it can still get killed easily. By people who know what they're doing, of course. But you've got plenty of tanks that can deal with the mouse, even in full down tiers. What is really destroying the mouse is the situation you've created yourself, the battle rating compression. Pretty much every single nation has access to a 8.7 battle rating premium main battle tank, which are all fully stabilized, which can all fire APF-SDS, which all have great mobility, and are just completely spamming the matchmaker and dragging everything below into up tiers. And especially the mouse, which has nothing really to fight against them, has a huge issue with that. So I'm going to use this example once, because I don't usually agree with the date of introduction argument. You need to look at the stats of the tanks, not at the date it was introduced, because there are many other issues here, but for the sake of argument, you have the mouse, a World War II heavy tank prototype from 1944 that Hitler himself saw driving, facing off against a multitude, hordes really, of 1970s main battle tanks with stabilized guns, APF-SDS, HeatFS, and especially in the case of the T-55 AM, even composite armor and absolute low pen 8 gems. How does it make any sense whatsoever? Gaijin is fully aware of this. They are fully aware of this. The reason why these tanks are still 8.7 and can drag 7.7 tanks up is exactly because they don't want to make the 9.0. Because they are making so much money off of them. Each of these tanks costs $50. And when I look at the stats from my affiliate link, from which you can get the decal, I can actually see what people buy through the affiliate link. And there is quite a lot of people who buy these 8.7 and 9.0 premium tanks. Of course the matchmaker is going to be completely full with them. Of course it's going to be resulting in constant up tiers for 7.7 tanks. These tanks shouldn't be facing something like the mouse in the first place. Really, most of the tanks should be at least a battle rating 9.0, if not higher. Of course they're not going to be putting them at 9.0 because the current battle rating max is 10.0 and they don't want the new players to get destroyed by top tier tanks. Well, of course the obvious fix here for anyone who thinks about it is to up the max battle rating, something that I've touched on in my last video where I've exposed a multitude of issues that I have with the game, my main issue being the battle rating compression at higher tiers, and this is the perfect example of it. It would make so much more sense to simply put the max battle rating higher, 10.3, 10.7, 11.0 if you want to, balance the tanks accordingly. Make it so that these tanks, these 8.7 premium tanks, are outside of the bracket of the mouse, and everything would be fine. The mouse would benefit from it, the M103 would benefit from it, the IS-4M would benefit from it, pretty much any heavy tank would benefit from it, really, while still being easily killable by various vehicles that they're going to be facing even in full down tiers. But Gaijin simply refuses to do that. Instead of going for the logical approach, they go for the easy approach, and they simply remove the troubled tanks. They simply remove the symptom instead of addressing the cause. And this is what I really have an issue with. And as I mentioned before, it makes absolutely no sense. The timing could not have been worse, and the community uproar has been absolutely massive. Now, of course, you're going to get parts of the community that are angry about the Panther 2, King Tiger, and the Korean, and okay, you can be angry, but we kind of were expecting this. As I mentioned, I can kind of agree in the Panther 2 being a bit of an issue by being removed without having a proper replacement for it, but you know, we knew about this for a while. But the mouse? Why the mouse? It came out of nowhere. As a result of this announcement, you've actually been seeing a lot more people playing the mouse. You've got the hashtag #SaveTheMouse being prominently used, and hell, you've even got people saving the mouse in game. In fact, just the last game I played before recording this. I had a match on Wallonia where I just sat on the A cap and I talked in chat to the enemy team, and they all just gathered around me without actually killing me. It was fun. I didn't kill anyone, they didn't kill me, we just chilled out and just saved the endangered species that is the mouse. The mouse is really a social vehicle. It kind of reminds me of the Talk 2 in War Thunder, where by itself it's not really that great, given that you have to expose your biggest weak spot every time you want to aim at an enemy. But you can have great fun by playing a mouse in a squad, for example. In fact, during my last livestream I did the Great Berlin Wall of Mouses. And it's just fun. It's a social vehicle. It's something that can really do great when you have some friends to tag along. And I'm really sad that this won't be viable anymore in the future. New players who currently don't have the mouse unlocked and who aren't going to be able to even put research into the mouse before the patch drops, they won't be able to get this vehicle anymore. They won't be able to easily get this vehicle anymore. Now, Gaijin did mention that they were going to be making the mouse available as an event vehicle in the future, and I am kind of afraid of that, because it's likely going to be quite hard to get them. I believe people have been suggesting that they make it somewhat like the LA174, which is temporarily available for research in the main tech tree every now and then. They could also make it like the PO2 and the TB3, which are only available for special events once a year. They could even put them in the Warbond shop. But I have this slight feeling, and I hope to Godzilla. I really pray to Godzilla that I'm wrong about this. But I have this feeling that at least one of these vehicles is eventually going to end up on the marketplace. And at that point, I'm going to be absolutely furious. And the community itself is going to be absolutely furious. Just imagine if they have the audacity of taking away tanks that were previously freely researchable in the main tech tree, removing them from the game, and reintroducing them as marketplace coupons later on. Can you imagine the riots? It's going to be worse than the 3 parts in FP fiasco. Like, 3 parts in FP was bad enough. This time it's going to be even worse. So, Gaijin, hashtag please consider, never, ever, ever, ever even think about putting any of these vehicles on the marketplace. You don't want to open that can of worms, trust me. This whole thing just makes me sad, really. I really wish that Gaijin goes back and doesn't remove the mouse. I'm fine with the rest. Of course I have issues with the Panther too, but fine, I can deal with that, but don't remove the mouse, please, Gaijin, this comes from the bottom of my heart. The mouse is an iconic vehicle. Your explanation for the removal of it doesn't make any sense. The timing has been the worst you could possibly have come up with. The solution to this issue is very obvious, so please, listen to the community, don't remove the mouse, keep it in the tech tree, and instead actually address the cause of the issue. Don't go fixing the symptoms, go fix the cause. Decompress the battle ratings. Make top tier tanks have a higher battle rating. Extend the battle rating to 11.0, whatever you want really, I don't care, just extend it. Leopard 2A5 should not be at the same battle rating as Leopard 2A4, for example. By doing that, you can actually put these premium tanks, the Leopard 1 with the L44 gun, smoothbore, which by the way, fucking hell, the thing can be on the same team as a mouse, just think about that. The MX30 Super, D55AM, the what else did I miss? No, I already talked about. Anyway, you know all the tanks, the 8.7 premium tanks. You can put them up without any issues, without really affecting them at all. And by doing that, you massively relieve not only the mouse, but all the other troubled tanks at the moment. The M103, IS4M, all those heavy tanks. The solution isn't hard to implement, it is logical, and it brings much more benefits than downsides, really. The only downside you could arguably come up with in this regard is increased matchmaking times, but frankly, it's not going to increase that much, and you know it. Come on, just a 0.3 up tier for all these vehicles is not going to do anything to the matchmaker at all. There's still going to be plenty of people playing them because premium tank, duh, and it's massively going to be helping out the lower tiers. Come on, Gaijin, do the sensible thing. I believe in you. But sadly, for the time being, this is going to be the last hoorah for the mouse, I suppose. We're going to be seeing less and less of them in the future, especially if Gaijin doesn't budge on the battle rating decompression. And really, it's just that. It's something so iconic that it's just getting removed. It makes me sad more than anything. Well, at least for the time being, you guys can try and get the mouse. I don't think the update is coming out for at least another 2 weeks from now. We still have yet to see the dev server, and we've barely had any devlogs. So you still got a little bit of time. All you really need to do is put at least one research point towards any of these 4 vehicles to be able to still research them after the update drops. But once the update drops and you don't have research put towards these tanks, that's it. You won't be able to get them anymore. I think I know very much what the general consensus is going to be in the comments. I don't think we're going to really be having many people who are for the removal of the tanks from the tech tree, but I would still very much like to hear your opinion if you do, and I respect such opinion. It's always nice to have a proper civilized discourse in the comments down below. But in any case, you can also add to the reasons I just gave to why you think that the removal of the mouse is just nonsensical, really. Leave your opinions in the comments down below. I will be reading through every single one of them. I think I might be doing another stream sometime soon to play the mouse. The last one was quite fun, but quite short as well. So keep an eye out on that. Twitch.tv/MikeGoesBoom. In the case, this video is going to be ending now. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, leave it a like rating. It really helps out the channel. If you're new around here and you want to see more War Thunder content, subscribe. It's free. And I will see you in the next one. As always, lads, my name is MikeGoesBoom, and thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lies with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find